Hello, everyone, and welcome to my official 2023 NBA mock draft. Did one of these for the NFL a couple months ago. I'm gonna do one of these for the NHL in the next week. Just doing the first round here, no trades, just because trades will happen. It's inevitable. It's just not always easy to predict unless there's like a 99% report that's coming out. But yeah, so getting into the draft, I think the first pick we don't need to gloss over too long. We got Victor Wembanyama. He's just going to be a generational player in this league. That's the expectation. I know Curtis, he's going to do a mock draft as well. He's a little more high on Victor's floor than I am. Just the only reason I have questions is other than Kevin Durant, we really haven't seen this, lanky, really tall player, have longevity in the NBA before. It's hard to think that, I just obviously today the way that athletes train is different than in the past years, but it wouldn't surprise me if his career is under 10 years just due to injury, and that's a sad thing to say, but that's the only real question I have. I think his game is pretty, speaks for itself, and there's a reason he's going number one. I think him fitting in with the San Antonio Spurs, I love it. Potential new dynasty brewing there. And I went back and forth on this number two pick for the longest time, but I'm gonna have Scoot Henderson going number two of the Hornets. People talk about how is he gonna play alongside LaMelo, positional fit, yada yada. I just think back to the 2020 draft. Obviously they didn't really have their pick of the litter. They had the third overall pick, and obviously they were gonna take LaMelo, but you know. The season prior, people were kind of excited about Terry Rozier, Devonta Graham. So I don't think them already having LaMelo Ball is preventing them from taking a guy like Scoot Henderson. I think that's where they're going to go. And then that leaves Brandon Miller going number three to the Portland Trailblazers. He's just the top forward in the draft class. If you call Wembanyama forward, then he is, but I'd put him more as like a, power forward center. But yeah, he's the best forward in the draft class, was the best player in college basketball last season, led the best team in the regular season. He's going to be a really good NBA player. But this pick could be in a trade just because we don't know what Portland's going to do. I think Dame is still a Portland Trailblazer this time tomorrow. Who knows? Um, Next, with pick four, I have the Houston Rockets going with Amen Thompson. I think the KPJ era is done in Houston, and bringing in a guy like Amen who can, be that, starting point guard for you and have, Jalen Green play off ball. Other, young guys coming up like Jabari Smith, Sengun. I think Houston is starting to, really, really pick it up. And I think this is the guy that they got to go with here. He's just, he can handle the ball. They need point guard positional need, but he's also just a crazy athlete, and I think him and Jalen Green is going to be a really good backcourt for years to come. Number five, I went back and forth on this pick as well, but I can ultimately have the Detroit Pistons taking Jarace Walker out of the University of Houston. He could immediately be the best defender on this Detroit Pistons team the second he gets drafted. He's just a defensive freak, and the Pistons are lacking in that department. They have their guards figured out. They have their big men figured out. There's kind of a log jam in Detroit there. So I think taking forward to wing is the kind of guy they want to go with here. And Jarace Walker is an incredible player. Next, we have the second of the Thompson twins. I've got the Magic going Ausar Thompson. He's just, a very high ceiling. He can play the guard slash forward. He's got that size, but athleticism that's gonna translate to the NBA really well, I think. And I think what Orlando's building is special as well. A lot of these teams like, Houston, Detroit, Orlando, I really want this draft to be the last time that they're picking up here, just because they've been in the top five, top 10 for so many years, gotten all these, accumulated all these really high level prospects. But what are they going to do with them? I think next season, if I had to say of those three teams, Houston, Detroit, Orlando, I think Orlando is the team that is going to make that step. But Asar just kind of comes into a team where the expectation is not necessarily for him to be the star, but I think, he can slowly develop his game, and in a few years, the Magic could be really scary. At pick number seven, I have the Indiana Pacers going Cam Whitmore. He's just a great wing to pair with Benedict Mathurin. a good college career at Villanova. He had some injury stuff that's kind of, making people a little bit questionable on him, but I'm pretty sure this top seven is pretty set in stone. There's obviously a couple of weird picks in every draft, but the seven guys I've listed so far, I think are probably the top seven. So in that case, the Pacers are just going best player available. At pick number eight, we got Anthony Black out of the University of Arkansas. I think this is also a best player available. He's just a great two-way guard. He's got great offensive upside. He's shown offensive upside, not necessarily on a consistent basis, but now we know with Washington, they just traded away Kristaps Porzingis. Sure, they're bringing in another guard in Tyus Jones, but one guard isn't going to solve all your problems. But yeah, there's not necessarily any expectation in the short term for Washington. So Black is just able to come in, develop his game, and who knows, he could be a long-term asset for the Wizards, who have been since the John Wall, Bradley Beal. I guess they traded Bradley Beal too. So the Wizards are fully in a rebuild kind of retool mode, and Black is a good piece to kind of start. At pick number nine, I have the Utah Jazz going with Taylor Hendricks out of UCF. He's just got great size and athleticism that would fit in really well with this Jazz team. They've got so many picks over the, course of the next few seasons that they can kind of just take the guys that they want, but also just take the best guys that are available and, see what they can do. They have, time. They're not really in a competitive, you know, part of their franchise right now. They kind of went through that for the last 5 years with D Mitch and Gobert. Uh, no championship to come of it. But now with this new core, they're just gonna, see what fits. And I think, he would fit in really nicely with this club. Just kind of maybe allow Larry Markkinen to play the three, as he's more of a, shooter. And then Hendricks can play the four, Kessler at the five. I'm really liking what the Jazz uh, got working for them. Next, I have Dallas going with Dereck Lively at Duke University. The offensive upside wasn't really there at Duke, but there were other guys taking the shots. But he's an elite shot blocker, and this is something that the Mavericks need. They don't really have that defense last year. Christian Wood, Dwight Powell, those were their big men, and it wasn't doing so well for them. But I think having a guy like Dereck Lively who's going to come in could potentially average over 2 blocks, in his prime in the league. I think that's a good guy that you want to get there. And it's probably the last time they're going to be picking this low again in the Luka era. And in my opinion, I think the expectation for them this season prior, they made the Western Conference Finals. So I think going forward, the expectation is success in Dallas, and I think Dereck Lively will contribute to that. Um, Next, we have Grady Dick out of the University of Kansas going to the Orlando Magic. They took Ausar at 6. Now they get Dick at 11. It's just kind of like two really solid prospects out of these top 11 picks. Either way, the Magic are going to come out, pretty solid from this. But he's just a good, 3 and D guy. He's from a great school, so he's pretty disciplined when it comes to just he's comfortable with his game. I think uh, kind of like Franz Wagner, how he stepped in with the Magic and was just immediately a good rotation player. I think Dick can be the same. And pair him with Jalen Suggs. You have the Suggs Dick um, combination in Orlando, and I think everybody wants to see that. Um, Second guy from the Metropolitans 92, which is the French club that Victor Wembanyama plays for. But yeah, Bilal Coulibaly. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. A lot of these foreign prospects, even some of the North American prospects, I don't know if I'm pronouncing all these names correctly. But a little bit overshadowed by Vic. He's got great physicals, a great wingspan, and just one of those foreign guys. I think that the Thunder, you know, are just gonna want to slot into their roster, and he's gonna be a big part of this OKC team. I'm ready to put them in that you know perennial playoff team as early as next year. I think they have their guy in Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and a really good supporting cast to back it up. I think OKC is going to be scary for years to come. Next, we have the Raptors going Cason Wallace out of the University of Kentucky. I really like this pick. In my head, I'm thinking, I don't want the Raptors to miss out on that, Tyrese Maxey type guy again. Uh, you know, it's easy to make that comparison when they both went to Kentucky, but I think Cason Wallace, he's just the best point guard available. The Raptors are going to need a point guard if they lose Fred VanVleet, especially. But even before then, that's just something that the Raptors have lacked, ever since Kyle Lowry left. Is that number one or number two point guard to handle the ball. I think Scotty is going to step up his ball handling kind of into next season. I want him to be more of a point guard in some sets, but I think Keyshawn Wallace would be a great fit with this Raptors team. Next, I have Jalen Hood-Schifino going to the New Orleans Pelicans. And for all I know, they could, trade up to pick number two, pick number three, and get Scoot Henderson. There's been a lot of rumblings about that. Not so much like in the past few days, really leading up to the draft, but, in draft season, it's something that I've heard. But it's clear that they want a point guard. Again, Cason Wallace just went, in my opinion. Jalen Hood-Schifino now is the best point guard available. He's a freshman, looked really good in Indiana. Just, comfortable, confident with the ball, draws contact, gets to the line. I think his game is going to translate really nicely. And yeah, a really good addition for the Pelicans here. Next, we have Jordan Hawkins going to the Hawks out of UConn. He's just an elite shooter. We saw that they brought in Sadiq Bey to help shooting, and I think they're just gonna keep on trying to bring in some shooting just to surround Trey Young, Dejounte Murray, whoever the point guard is there. Just kind of be a team that can be one of the best offenses in the league. And really, there's you can see them maybe going a big man here. They can move on from Clint Capella, but at this point, I don't really trust taking any of the big men at pick 15. So Jordan Hawkins, a part of the national championship UConn team, just a really good shooter and a really good addition to this Hawks rotation. Next, we have Kobe Bufkin out of University of Michigan. I really like getting Hendricks and then getting Bufkin. Bufkin, I think, is one of those, middle first round guys that has potential to become an elite scorer when it's all said and done, like a Paul George. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Paul George or whatnot, but just one of those guys that's, not at the top of the draft, but turns out to be the best scorer from the draft in years to come. If he develops his 3-point shot, obviously, that's kind of the only, issue that I've seen so far, but, efficient otherwise. And yeah, I really think Utah is lacking that number one point guard. You could say Sexton, but I don't have faith in that. But yeah, so I think Kobe Bufkin is a good pick, good guy to go here. They have three first rounders, Utah, so really just getting the guys that they want. They don't have to go positional. They don't have to go best player available. Just, make the best of your picks. And yeah, I think Kobe Bufkin's a great pick here. Next, we have Keyonte George out of Baylor University going to the Lakers. I really like this for the Lakers just because, he's got good range. He can shoot the three ball, which is something that the Lakers are always welcoming with their current roster, trying to, put shooters around LeBron and AD. But he's also just, a smart two-way guy. He comes out of Baylor, and I think that he's just, going to be a welcome addition to this Lakers roster. Nothing against Lonnie Walker or Troy Brown Jr., but I think, if you draft a guy like Keontae George and he becomes exactly what you want him to be, those kind of guys, you don't need a need for them anymore. And, you have Reeves, Keontae George, they, probably keep Schroeder. I think it's going to be a good pick for the Lakers here. And yeah, I think pick 17, this is a really important pick for the Lakers just because if they draft a, guy who is going to take a while, a project, realistically in the long term, what's that going to do for this Lakers team? Whereas if they can draft a guy who can be an immediate impact, which I think Keontae George can be, this is going to catapult them and potentially get them another ring before LeBron retires. Next, we have Brandon Podziemski out of Santa Clara University. A really good rebounder for his size. Like I was looking at his stats, and he had like an 18 rebound game, something like that. Like lots of double doubles, and he's only like 6'4". He's a shooting guard. So just kind of one of those hustle guys that Miami look for. And we kind of saw, for the first three rounds in the playoffs, 3-point shooting did not seem to be an issue that the Miami Heat had. They were shooting, really well. They got to the NBA Finals, obviously, but then things went cold in the NBA Finals. Gabe Vincent and Max Strus just weren't there anymore. And I think, Miami recognizes that they need to get an elite 3-point scorer and not just necessarily like a specialty 3-point scorer like Duncan Robinson is, but just like a do it all kind of hustle guy that, is going to work well with any team. And I think Podziemski is that for them here. And also another thing, it's like they were just in the NBA finals. How do they have pick 18? I don't necessarily understand how the pick system works in the NBA. Next, we have Kris Murray to the University of Iowa. No, I'm not drafting a player that was drafted last year and is already in the league. This is Keegan Murray's brother, Kris Murray. Very similar outlook, I think, to Keegan in the NBA. Just one of those plays older than he is. Very mature, smart guy. Can stretch the floor, can rebound, just makes the right play. And I think, it's going to be welcome to this Golden State team. He gives them some size that they need down low. Uh, but yeah, I really like this pick for them. They just played Keegan Murray in the first round in the playoffs, so they understand the impact he has for Sacramento. If Kris Murray can be even a Keegan Murray light, I think the Warriors are going to be happy with this pick. Um, and at pick 20, a guy I don't really know a lot about. You can tell from the not as high quality image. I didn't notice that until just now of him as some other players, but Olivier Maxence Prosper out of Marquette University. Could be saying that wrong as well. I'm just kind of going with a little bit of a French just because he's Olivier Prosper, and I know he is Canadian as well. So shout out at a Marquette University. He's just got great physicals and his stock is on the rise. I've been hearing, when I was doing my mock drafts a few weeks ago, I wasn't seeing this guy's name in the first round. When I looked at, other, guys that I trusted doing mock drafts, but now he's on the rise. And I think it was like 15 teams had him in for a workout, so a lot of interest in him. Have him going 20. Pick 21, we have the Brooklyn Nets going Nick Smith Jr., best point guard available at this point in time. Spencer Dinwiddie is only a short-term option in terms of the Nets long-term outlook. I don't think the Nets are seeing themselves as contenders within the next 2 or 3 years, but maybe within the next 3 to 5. So Nick Smith Jr. comes in. And yeah, just the best point guard available. Just a solid guy in Arkansas. Played with Anthony Black. I like the fit here. And then we have Leonard Miller, another Canadian, shout out of the G League Ignite. He's just a big prospect, solid rebounder, and I think, if you get a nice point guard and then a nice forward slash center to pair with these two picks back to back, I think the Brooklyn Nets are going to be very happy with their first round. Pick number 23, I have the Portland Trailblazers going with Jett Howard at the University of Michigan. He's an oversized guard. He's about 6'8", I'm pretty sure, with what I saw on the internet. But he is a guard nonetheless. They got Brandon Miller at 3. They probably wanted Scoot. They were probably hoping they got Scoot. They're not going to be mad with Brandon Miller at all. But, getting a guy like Jett Howard here, elite shooter, especially for his size at the position. So I think this is a good pick here. Another, comes from a good school as well. We have Maxwell Lewis from Pepperdine to the Sacramento Kings. Stays in California. I was going to make some note about, just down the road, but no, they're 6 hours away, Pepperdine and Sacramento. So he's still, probably taking an airplane to get there. Not that he's at Pepperdine right now. But in my opinion, he's just a really good fit with the team, and he would be the Harrison Barnes replacement. Just really athletic, and I think developed in the right system with the right team. We saw what they did. Obviously, Keegan Murray was a top pick, but last year, Keegan Murray was an immediate impact player for them, and going into next season, one of the biggest parts of that Sacramento Kings roster. So they get Maxwell Lewis here. Harrison Barnes probably walks in free agency. And, the Kings are looking scary in the couple of years to come. I think this year it was really fun, like the beam. They got the third seed, but then they lost to Golden State in round 7 or game 7. And then I feel like people just stop talking about them. Whatever, the playoffs go on. You don't really talk about the teams that get eliminated. But I think what Sacramento did this season should not be overlooked. And I think this team should be here to stay. Yeah, Boston now at pick 25. They originally didn't have a first round pick, but in the Marcus Smart Porzingis trade, they got a first round pick. They need to replace Marcus Smart. Not saying Andre Jackson Jr. is that, but he's just a good combination of playmaking and defense, similar to that of Marcus Smart. which they're going to be lacking. Obviously, Derek White is going to get some of those minutes in terms of just being that Marcus Smart type player for them. And we know that Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown bring the ball up the floor. So it's not necessarily like the Celtics need a traditional point guard. But I really like this fit coming in here at pick 25. Number 26, we have Dereck Whitehead out of Duke University. Was a really highly touted guy. Went to Montverde, which is one of the best, high schools or academies for basketball in the nation, in the United States. Had a little bit of a disappointing year in college, but was still at Duke. So, I'm just trying to think of like a Duke player that disappointed a little bit, but I'm not too familiar. Nothing is coming to my head right now, but you know, committed to Duke, was offered to Duke for good reason. I think the potential is still there. They get Cam Whitmore and then they get Whitehead here. I think the Wit and White fans are going to be really happy with the first round that the Pacers have. Um, Good pick here. And then originally the point that I had on this, because I had Scoot going pick number uh, 3, and then I had Brandon Miller going 2 up until, a few minutes before even recording this. I was going back and forth on that a lot, but I was saying that Charlotte gets both Bama boys, both Clowney and Brandon Miller, but nope, they get Scoot and Clowney, and still think that's a really good haul, especially with them taking a guard. With that first pick, a lot of people would expect them to take, a big with this next pick, and he's probably the best one available. Good rebounder, great interior defender. He's just going to be a good solid player for the Charlotte Hornets. And pick number 28, Utah going with Jamie Jaquez Jr. out of UCLA. He was an elite scorer, a big part of their run. He's been there for a couple years. He's older, he's a veteran. But I think he's going to immediately step in and be a good scoring guy for this Utah team. They get Hendricks, then they get Kobe Bufkin, and now they get Jaquez Jr. I think a really good first round for Utah. He is just, yeah, he just plays with maturity. I think he's well beyond his years. Like if you even look at his photo, he kind of could be like a 32-year-old NBA player, but no, he's coming out of college, and I think he's going to be a first round pick in the back half. Another team that didn't originally have a first round pick, they made a couple second rounds, a first round next year to get back in here. And I think they go Colby Jones out of Xavier University. Great defensive guard, also can play make a little bit. And not that it was an issue for them, they just won the NBA championship. And the Jamal jersey is over there. But who's backing up Jamal Murray? They obviously had Reggie Jackson, Ish Smith, guys like that, but they didn't really play that much. They traded away Bones Highland, who was, going to be that guy for them in the future, but obviously wasn't. And I think Colby Jones is just that, in your system, Bones Highland replacement. And then to round out the first round of the LA Clippers going with Bryce Sensabaugh, just an elite scorer, great 3-point shooter. He had a little bit of a knee injury that kind of hurt his stock. You know, he was going to like Lakers and some other mock drafts, and he could even still go that high, but I have him going in the back half of the first round here, right at the end. Just adding some, scoring, just be one of those spark plug guys off the bench or, play in the, starting lineup or closing lineup just to be one of those guys who can hit a shot off ball from Kawhi PG and whatever point guard they decide to bring in. I think it's probably going to be Chris Paul. I think the Clippers, are going to keep pushing to be competitive next season. I'm really excited for the NBA draft tonight. Not only is the top of the draft with, Vic Scoot and Brandon Miller really heavy. I think, you know, all the way, I think the top 10, top 12 is also really good. And then it's a little bit of a crapshoot, once it gets outside the lottery, but I think there are still going to be a lot of gems when we look back at this draft historically. So enjoy wherever you're watching tonight, or if you're just, watching through Twitter on your phone. But yeah, it's draft season. The off season is coming up shortly. So even though the season just ended, there's still lots of basketball to talk. So hope you guys enjoyed my mock draft. Criticisms will be coming out later today. Thank you.